You know what I've been doing? You'd be so proud of me, Amy. I've been listening to these meditations. And we all know, you guys that have been listening to us know that Amy's a sitter and I'm a mover. Not in a, like, in meditation. Like, I have a hard time sitting still in meditation, and Amy can do that very beautifully and finds that serves her best. So I've been listening to these meditations and doing a little bit of yoga while I'm doing it, and using the rhythmic of the meditative words to guide my movement and breath through it, which that's a huge accomplishment for me. Welcome to Envibe Live Conversations with Amy Parker and Cheryl Dunn. By tuning in, you are joining a community that will inspire you to increase balance, wellness, and joy in your life. We'll offer expert information and insightful conversations to help us on our journey to live more Envibe. For more information and articles, remember to also check out our website at envibelife.com. That's ENVIBELIFE.com. We're grateful that you're here. Welcome to Envibe Live Conversations with Amy Parker and Cheryl Dunn. And today what we're going to talk about is mindfulness and how it helps us decrease stress in our lives.
Yeah, and this is a topic that comes up a lot. I mean, first of all, mindfulness sort of underlies everything else we talk about. I think it's hard to even fully define it or quantify it or describe sort of what is mindfulness. But when you start to develop some practices, and maybe that's one of the keys, we can kind of talk about what it is, but then there are ways you can take those concepts and apply them in real concrete ways to your life. And that's where you can start to see some benefits on reducing levels of stress and anxiety, even physiological changes like stabilized heart rate and blood pressure and
decreased pain, weight loss. There are many ways that you can apply mindfulness that you'll see benefits in your life.
Yeah. And so let's start by, let's talk a little bit about what it is. You know, sort of going back, we haven't talked about this at this level in a long time. Like, we talk about mindfulness all the time. Let's talk about what it is. To me, the most important component of it, and there are a few, but is being in the present moment. And that is hard to understand.
It's kind of an esoteric thing. I think there are multiple ways to define mindfulness. And I do believe that you have referred to one of your favorite authors that kind of introduced you to the concept.
Well, Eckhart Tolle is who really introduced me to the concept of being in the present moment. And then that made me realize, oh, this is what mindfulness is all about. Like, now I get it. Yeah. Where before I, kind of heard about it, kind of sort of thought, oh, well, that's meditation, or that's some actual own kind of practice. And it's really not. And, so something that Eckhart Tolle says, and, we recommend The Power of Now and New Earth. And there are two books we have links to on our website. Highly recommend reading those, or get the audiobook and listen, particularly The Power of Now, because part of the principle is, if you just for any moment realize that right now in my life, everything is okay, it helps you tackle anything that comes your way. And like we talked about stress, most of the time stress is either worrying about something that you're scared is about to happen, or is going to happen, or feeling anxious about or worrying about something that's already happened, or regrets you have. And so that's why realizing that anything from the past, anything happening in the future isn't real.
Right.
It's a different place on the timeline. And if you can pull yourself into this moment, this place on the timeline, and realize, like, right here, right now, this very second, I'm not in danger.
Right.
Nothing is happening to me. I can garner the tools and the energy I need to face all of that other stuff.
Correct. Or I'll find, just for an example, I might be rerunning conversations in my head, and that's me living in the past. And so when I find myself that I'm replaying that conversation, I'll have to say, oh, that's over. Stay here. Stay now.
Choices. I do that all the time. And I mean, I think there's value to examining your life.
Oh, of course.
Looking at the choices you have or haven't made and learning from them. That's super valuable. But are you learning or are you judging? I think that's a key way to look at what you're doing to the past. If you're looking at the past, judging yourself for what you did, then you're getting in a loop that's really, really hard to get out of. If you're looking at the past saying, that's interesting, I did that. What would I have done differently? What have I learned from doing it that way? I think that's a much healthier way to live in the past while you're in the present moment.
Right. To find what, your tools from it. I did it this way. Next time I'm going to do it a different way. Right? Or commend yourself. Oh my goodness, look at how much I've grown. I handled it better. That's another tool of you looking at the past.
I want to say something about that real fast too, because I feel like, particularly as we get older, right? We think, a year is nothing. How much can my life change in a year? And a year is really a lot of time. You can really change a lot about yourself, your life, your circumstances in 1 year's time. And I think I have learned that as much through Envibe Life as I have through anything else, because we're actually approaching the 1 year anniversary of Envibe Life. I think our first podcast went live the first week in May of 2020.
Crazy.
I think our first articles went out maybe at the end of April. And so we've been working on the idea for a little longer than that. But, from really saying, okay, here we are.
Here we are.
Oh my gosh, it seems like 10 years ago.
It does.
And when I look back at those earlier podcasts, earlier articles, I also think, oh my goodness, I didn't know anything back then, way back then,
which
way
is
back
only
then
a
was
year.
a year ago.
Definitely. A lot can change in a year. And I'm kind of glad it can.
Well, I want to say that
that's
as words of encouragement or empowerment.
Yes.
And I think if you start with that, realizing that this moment right here is real, it's mine, and I'm in control of myself, my body, and how I feel in this moment, and then you stack another moment on top of it, and another, and another, and another, it becomes extremely powerful.
I want to share a really powerful tool that I have learned lately that kind of helps me stay present, because I do feel that sometimes, even if you are saying, okay, I'm right here in this moment. I'm not in yesterday, and I'm not in tomorrow. I'm right here in this moment. There still can be things that are happening in this moment that stress you out. That's reality. But one of the things that I've been using to kind of help me even stay more aware and more present in this moment is not only am I staying right here and not trying to rerun conversations or worry about future, but I also like to say, I am aware. I am aware that I'm this body is my tool. I'm in this body. And I am aware that I am not that thought spinning in my head. So
yes.
I am not the body. I am not the thoughts. I am deeper. I am the soul. And this is my experience in this world, in this place, in this time. And that helps me kind of be aware of the present moment, but also realizing things that might stress me out throughout my day or my life or what's going on. It's really kind of a game that we're playing. And I don't mean that in light of what's going on. I mean that I get to be in this experience. I get to be in this body. I get to have this family and these friends, and this is my work that I have created. And what can I do to make it more joyful, more purposeful,
So
I mean, there's more to that, but
I should probably take notes because I want to go in about 8 different directions from that. So the first thing is really awareness
Yes.
is another part of mindfulness.
Yes.
Being in the present moment, and then awareness is really the next big component of it. So rewind the last minute and re-listen to what Cheryl said, because that was a beautiful way to describe or define awareness. But then here's one of the bigger things, and we're kind of jumping into a whole new territory here. But when you really realize that everything in this life is you just playing out a role or a part so that you can learn, that's when it really, your mind just goes, whoa. Okay. Yeah, even so when I did that 3 years ago, it's because my soul needed to learn X or Y or Z. And that is a valuable part of looking backwards at things. Because when you can look backwards and understand what you were supposed to learn from it, and then again, when you get the benefit of being at age 50 and see how many of those moments you've had the benefit of learning.
Right.
You kind of start to realize that even what's happening in this present moment, you can get that awareness, almost a little bit of detachment. I'm scared to use that word detachment because I don't want it to seem like I'm not engaged in the present moment, because I am, but detachment from outcome or just realizing, I'm supposed to be learning something from this. Like there's something, I wonder what it is. I'm kind of curious. Look at things with a curiosity rather than an anxiety.
Yeah, an exploration.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I have taken this sort of mindful awareness and looked at things that typically would trigger me or upset me. And it would put me on this path of like, it should be done this way and that way, which is judgment. Right. And we've talked about that and how that's not good, or that's, something to work on. And then I've tried to rewind it and use this idea of awareness that I'm using on myself, but also use it on maybe the person that I'm judging and be like, you know what? They're just a soul in that body. Having these
something
thoughts
from what they're doing this moment.
Yeah, and it's empowered me so much to look at them as a soul being versus sitting and judging what they're doing.
Me too. And even if you can get to this place, realizing that whatever happened between us that may have even been difficult or hurtful for me, I was actually helping them learn something.
I know.
That's really powerful, where you can do that
powerful.
Too. And again, anything you can turn from judgment to gratitude.
Yeah.
That's an extremely powerful shift.
Extremely
in perception, powerful. Which of course, a miracle says a miracle is a shift in perception. Like you've just created a miracle in your life and maybe someone else's, if you can start to view that dynamic in that slightly different way. It's not easy. I mean, it's
not easy.
But that's where some of the tools come in. So let's talk about some of the tools that can help you maintain that present moment awareness, right? Or get into it. And I mean, you may not sit all day in it, right? Eckhart Tolle may sit all day in it.
Right.
Gandhi may have sat all day in it. I'm sure there are those out there who, Oprah may sit all day in it, right? I'm sure there are those out there that can do this all day long. Most of us can't. But that's why, again, for me, meditation is extremely powerful because even if it's just for a minute or two, then I've at least spent some time that day in an awareness of the present moment.
You know what I've been doing? You'd be so proud of me, Amy. I've been listening to these meditations. And we all know, you guys that have been listening to us know that Amy's a sitter and I'm a mover. Not in in meditation. Like I have a hard time sitting still in meditation, and Amy can do that very beautifully and finds that serves her best. So I've been listening to these meditations and doing a little bit of yoga while I'm doing it, and using the rhythmic of the meditative words to guide my movement and breath through it, which that's a huge accomplishment for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a mover with my meditation, but I usually do my own thoughts.
Even with yoga, though, they often spend a few seconds or a minute at the beginning and end of a practice just in stillness.
Just in stillness. Just being present in it. And that's huge. It's very powerful.
Well, and again, that's it. I'm saying the same thing I've said over and over. 60 seconds even. You know, I always say 3 minutes. Now I'm even saying 60 seconds. If it's 60 seconds, give yourself that gift of 60 seconds of stillness.
I think another way, or another good word to put on it, is give yourself a pause. And that could be if you've noticed a trigger, if you've noticed your brain spinning, if you've noticed your blood pressure just went up. If you can't think of what the next step is, just think pause. Pause, and then you've given your brain or your thought or your soul enough time to be like, whatever tool you need at that moment to rework whatever has become your stressor. Just think pause.
And there are other tools you can use in that moment. I know you are a big advocate of breathing and belly breathing.
Yes.
So describe that and why belly breathing is important or useful.
So when we are in a high stress situation and there's a lot of anxiety going on in your life, you tend to breathe really high up into your chest.
Well, let's go back even. You get a physical reaction.
Yes, you get a physical reaction.
Your body physically reacts to that happening.
It's reacting on a cellular level. Your hormones are changing in your body. You know, and constant stressors in your life will lead to inflammation and disease in your body. It's just a proven fact.
And pain.
Yeah. All of it. So a very easy, quick tool when you notice that I could be I have created a lot of stress, or stress is happening right now.
And it might even rise to that fight or flight
totally
reaction where your heart rate increases and your breathing gets more rapid.
If you just think about almost getting in a car wreck, right? All of a sudden if you were to put your hand on your chest during that time, your chest would be going up and down with your breath, up and down. You can guide and direct your breath out of that chest movement into a belly movement. And that is a purposeful act. You have to inhale and allow your belly to expand. And as you exhale, pull your belly towards your spine and just continue to guide your breath in this manner. And then your nervous system, it's like telling your nervous system, just take it down a few steps.
Do you have a count you recommend, like count of 3 or count of 5 or?
I like it to get as long as possible. You can't start with it a long count. I would start just maybe inhale for 2 or 3 and exhale for 2 or 3. It depends on how stressful your situation is. You might start with a 1 second breath because you're very up there, like almost getting in a car wreck. Your heart's beating so fast. So you might just have a, That might sound weird over the microphone, but it might be quick, but then you're like, okay, now I'm going to do a 2 breath and now I'm going to do a 3 breath. But ideally, if you can get to 5 and 6, sometimes even when I'm coaching people at the studio through breath, I have them see if they can exhale as long as me. Now, you got to figure when I'm coaching this, I'm in a very comfortable situation. I'm not stressed out and I'm a pro. I've practiced it a lot. So to get them to be able to exhale as long as I can in that situation is a challenge. But you want to talk about see their nervous system really, really relax and feel how the muscles in their bodies contract.
That's what I wanted to say. Tell specifically some things you see in clients when you put them through this exercise, like shoulders go down. That's what happens.
Tension in the jaw will relax. And also if somebody comes in and they're like, I can't feel that muscle. Their awareness is so out of their body. They really can't tell if a muscle's contracting or not. That is not an uncommon thing to happen. So if I make them do this deep exhale, in order for them to continue to push the air out of their body, the actual diaphragm is contracting and that actually moves the rib cage more narrow. And then the abdominal muscles kick in and they start to feel that deep contraction internally in their body. And then they start to realize that they do have control over some of the muscles that maybe just work automatically, like the diaphragm. We can control those muscles.
If you think about them.
If you're present.
But you have to get present and be aware.
You have to and that I feel like when I'm trying to help somebody get out of pain or have better posture or whatever their goal is from working with me, mindfulness is, if I can accomplish that, solved. Solved.
And this is just an example of why the whole mind, body, spirit connection and creating intentionality with all of them and understanding that they all work together is so important and so powerful.
You know what I find when people become mindful in their sessions? The frustration goes away. Because during the hour, I'm constantly guiding them and pushing them to find these boundaries, to work harder or to move a little more, so that can be frustrating for some people, rightfully so. And so if I can keep them present, it will release that frustration because they've put sometimes they've put such high expectations on themselves that the conversation in the head has gotten so negative, then that is a way bigger battle than any muscle skeletal deformity that I'm working with or dysfunction that I'm working with. If I can, the mind becomes the piece that needs to work with me to help their physical body. And if the mind is fighting me because they've got these negative thoughts, then I've got a bigger obstacle than just trying to get their spine to move more.
So there's this whole body of work. The way I heard it presented was holographic memory or holographic pain memory, where there are people out there who work in the field of trauma. Brett Baum is the name of one person who's written, and you can look him up, and he works with trauma victims, that a significant portion of chronic pain is really just the memory of the first event that ever happened to you. And if you can clear or purify, I guess, in a way, that memory, you can eliminate the pain. It's not even actual recurring physically, technically, but the memory of it is so powerful, your body still responds to that memory of it.
So true. It's so true.
And again, remember, our conscious mind is a small percentage of our full mind,
being.
brain working, memory there and full being. Okay, so let's combine those two thoughts a little bit, or like you kind of took this from the breath into the body, which I think is important. So let's take that even a step further. If sometimes when you're sitting in stillness, also implement a body scan.
Huge tool.
It really is, especially if you're having pain or even if you're not. And this, I think, if you can give yourselves at least 5 minutes, I know I say 60 seconds, but 5 minutes or 10 minutes, sit in stillness. Do at least 60 seconds or a couple minutes of intentional breathing to calm yourself down, but then kind of start at your head and kind of just spend a few minutes resting your awareness on each part of your body, going all the way down to your toes, and see what comes up. It's really amazing. I mean, first of all, I think each part of your body tends to relax when you put that sort of loving awareness on it. And so that just feels wonderful and is a tool in and of itself. But then if something really stands out at you, then it, like maybe it's a shoulder or a knee or abdomen or whatever, then you can really think about that. Maybe do some mindful movement on it.
Send guided breath to it.
And maybe go listen to the podcast we recorded with my Cheryl Russ talking about the chakra system. That might give you even something else to think about, what's being held there, that you might be able to do some other loving things to help heal and first ease whatever that stress or pain is, and then you can start to heal it. So that's another tool that I think is kind of a part of mindfulness, but really powerful.
I use this body scan in a different way, being mindful, but I use it to help me sleep at night. Like if I'm the type of sleeper that really, when my head hits the pillow, I'm out, but I'm easily woken. If the dog jumps in the bed, if Steven gets in the bed too rough, I'm like, you can't move the covers so much when you get in bed, it wakes me up. So,
Princess.
I am a princess. I am such a princess. I'll mess up. And I'm sorry.
Every once
I'm
in a while you
sorry.
think, remember like those old grand castles and the man and the woman would have their separate sleeping quarters that were just connected by an adjoining room or something. Or on The Crown, if you watch The Crown,
Yes.
that's how they depict
That
the
would
king
be
and queen
heaven.
there. It's like,
That'd be
and
heaven.
they have like an entire queen-size
wing.
bed to themselves. That's
every
amazing.
night. I think that
We just got off track.
yes, we did.
Maybe
but-
our husbands won't listen.
no, he can't hear this one, or he heard me fussing up to being a princess. Yeah, if he ruffles the covers too much, it wakes me up. So I have to do some of that body scan to go back to sleep. And so what I'll do is I'll either start at my feet or I'll start at my head, and I'm like inhale, exhale, and I'll visualize like the crown of my head kind of, and I say in my mind's eye, I say sleep.
Wow.
And then I go to my eyes and I'm like, okay, sleep. And then to my jaw and my lips and sleep. And then my throat. And I just work my way. And I'm telling you, if my thoughts haven't drifted off to something else, I am asleep before I get to the middle part of my body. Whether I've started at my head or my feet. Sometimes my mind drifts and I start thinking, oh, forgot to pay that bill.
Yeah.
Right? And then I go, okay, start over.
Or just bring it back
Yep.
and say, like, imagine that thought is surrounded by a bubble and just let it go.
Yes.
Say, like, sleep away or for tomorrow or come
for
up with
tomorrow.
something you direct it to do. Like, direct it to something.
That is great. I haven't thought of that one, but now I'm going to use that. And
Yeah.
then I go back and I start over, and it works. It works. I usually within minutes can be back asleep, if I'm
Okay.
not too princessy.
Before we move off the body, talk for just a minute about mindful movement. It's like you talked about yoga. I kind of said mindful movement, but it can be anything.
It can be anything, because I think I've said this before, but it's such a tool that I use every day. When I go to run, I try and be very present that I'm not feeding into imbalances in my body. And I'm a very right side dominant person. And I'm aware when I'm running with just my right leg, and so I try and be very aware that my pelvis is in an ideal alignment as I can have it. And I try and visualize in my mind's eye, where my pelvis is my posture upright? Is my breath calm when I run? I try and stay very centered. I use that also. I in my mind's eye, say centered. Mm-hmm. And I can actually feel my body becoming to where it is working more equally as I run. And so I use mindfulness in that manner. And I use it in the clinic teaching people how to move, that they're mindful of their movement. And then they can feel, if they can start to feel when the pathway that they took to find a particular movement didn't feel good, that's their body teaching them, and so that's just mindfulness. And if they can gather that tool of being mindful of, when I got that coffee cup off the top shelf, it kind of bothered my shoulder. So maybe I should go do the release work that I know how to do to help the muscles relax or fire better or whatever we're working on with that particular body. But that sometimes they would get that coffee cup off the top shelf and that shoulder would go, and they would just be like, whatever, and continue to move on and not do anything about it. Right? Like they felt it, but life became too busy to take 2 seconds to maybe walk over to, their pantry door and stretch their chest to, whatever tool they know to
We
help.
all do that.
We
We're
all
like,
do it.
Oh, whatever. Everyone hurts. We're all getting older. Everyone hurts.
Yes, we all do.
Okay, so I want to take that to even a slightly different perspective that we haven't really talked about before, but finding mindfulness in mundane tasks. So you mentioned getting the coffee cup off the shelf.
Yes.
So when you go get your coffee in the morning, maybe you only sat for 60 seconds, or maybe you have a hard time doing that. Think about your present moment as you walk to get your coffee in the morning or get your mail in the afternoon or whatever it is. Think about each step you're taking, how your body feels. Try not to think about anything else. Be in that moment. Turn the making of the coffee cup into its own ritual where you're savoring every part of it that you do. Maybe even giving thanks for every part of it that you do, or having gratitude. And that's something. So, I mean, that has so many components to it. First, it's a powerful practice in and of itself, just to turn, your daily tasks into sacred rituals. But also, if you say, I don't have time to sit and meditate, or I don't have time, well, I bet you're going to get the coffee though. Right. So take what you're going to do anyway.
Yes.
And bring mindfulness or intentionality to those things.
Repeat that, because that's powerful.
Right. Take the things you're doing in your life anyway, so your normal daily tasks, and bring mindfulness to those tasks. And then, the two examples, getting coffee, picking up the newspaper, if anyone does that, not digitally anymore, getting your mail from your mailbox.
I have a great one.
Taking your dog outside.
Eating your meal.
Eating your meal.
I have clients that come to me that weight loss is a goal. And I think that when the mind starts to fight and you're talking bad about your body, right? You're not only fighting all the junk food you want to eat, but you're also fighting your brain saying how fat you are, or how ugly you are, or whatever. I hate my thighs, whatever negative thoughts. So if you can release those thoughts, sit down and eat whatever meal you have decided to eat. I'm not asking them to make food changes yet. I just want to release those negative thoughts. Find one thing you're grateful for about your body. Be grateful for it. Sit down to your meal. Maybe bring your awareness that you are not this body, you are not those thoughts, you are this soul being, and you get this opportunity to feed the body that you're using as your vessel. And if you can create that awareness around your mealtime, I've eaten less. I've made better decisions when I'm putting that into it. It's like, oh, I don't need the 10 cookies. I'm going to have the one because it tastes so good and I do enjoy it and I spent the time baking it. But I don't really need the 10 because that's when my eating became mindless. Like I wasn't thinking about it. I just was like, oh, looks good, and put another one in. But when I get present in my food choices, or just in the process of putting the food in my mouth, then it satiates whatever I'm looking to satiate much quicker, and I'm still a sugar addict, and I still love chocolate, and it's still kind of a trigger that when I get home, and I'll go grab a piece of chocolate. It's my thing. But if I do it with some presence in the moment, that one piece will satisfy what I'm looking for instead of eating the whole candy bar,
So the other thing that's come up a few times during this conversation that I think might be one of the more valuable things we can talk about is being mindful about your words. And so we know that words are powerful.
Huge.
And words are powerful when you're speaking to someone else. But what I'm really even talking about now is what you're telling yourself. So you earlier were saying that when you do that process with your body to try to sleep, you use the word sleep. I think you had another one, perhaps even.
Sometimes I'll just say melt.
Or melt.
Like melt
relax.
into the,
And now, like you're saying, instead of telling yourself, I'm so overweight that I can't eat this, say, I'm so grateful that my back is so strong and that I have this opportunity to nourish my body in this way. The words are very powerful. Again, your whole mind, not just the 5% we use in the conscious world every day, your whole mind hears every single thing you say to it. So what are you telling yourself? And if you can become mindful about that, first of all, about getting rid of some of the judgment and the negative things, we're usually all hardest on ourselves.
Completely.
Get rid of some of that harshness on ourselves and then start to turn it into maybe positive things you tell yourself. Wow, what might happen?
Words are powerful. They're so powerful. That's something that I feel like when I'm working with my clients that are adults, it's really hard to get them to understand that. And I have to be very delicate with, trying to get them to change the story. With my children, they're starting to get it a little bit. My youngest, he'll say things that he means with all intentionality to be funny. But I have read somewhere that, the universe doesn't have a sense of humor.
Yeah.
And so your jokes are real to them. He made a joke about, oh yeah, when I get this car and I don't have that one until I wreck it. My husband and I were both like, nope, cancel that.
Yeah.
Change that. You are not going to wreck it. And he's starting, like, he sees Stephen and I go, when he says something that we don't want to happen, and he's starting to get that we're like, no, cancel that. You didn't mean that. Let's change it. And words are powerful. Be careful what you joke with. And he gets that from me and Steven. We're big jokers.
I know. So us too. And I grew up with a lot of sarcasm.
Me too.
And thought it was a virtue. Oh, it shows how witty we are.
It's
It shows
funny.
how clever we are.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
And it's been one of the lessons of my adult life that it's actually an extremely dangerous thing. And it's for exactly what you said.
It's very
The
dangerous.
universe, your body doesn't understand that it's a joke. It just hears the meanness.
Yeah.
And a lot of sarcasm, there's a really fine line between, are you harming someone else
Yes.
or yourself in what you say, even a self-deprecating. I mean, that's become one of my triggers, actually, is self-deprecation or self-deprecating jokes. Just that it really puts something out there that is toxic, whether you realize it or not.
Yes.
If you think it's funny. And, something my husband always likes to say to my kids and to me and to himself is, it's so much more powerful to lift someone up than to pull someone down. So instead of saying that little dig or funny thing, that makes you feel good because you sort of pulled someone down in a way.
Yes.
Think about, like, if you said something that lifted them up,
Yeah.
how powerful would you feel for having done that to someone?
Yes.
Because that is being able to take someone's state of being and elevate it.
Yeah.
That's about as amazing interaction we can have with another human being as is out there.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I know my kids don't listen to my podcast, so I'm going to talk about them here. They will put each other down quicker than anything. And I haven't quite, maybe I haven't said the right words or made it very clear how that's not okay, and it's their first thing they go to. And they've learned it, so I can't say I don't know where they've learned it, because I mean, they live in my house.
Well, we can only do what we know now.
Yes.
I mean, I haven't lived with these principles my whole life.
Right.
I'm trying really hard.
Right.
And something that's a challenge for me is, like, by the time I really started to get some of this, my kids were a lot older.
Yeah.
Already. And now it's really hard to go back and reprogram what's been programmed. And
I can see the difference
it's
in
a
my
hard
two boys.
parenting thing, you know, especially when it's like, they got that from me, and now I've changed it in myself. But how do I? But it's still there. Oh, ugh, if I could redo that, I'd redo that. But we can't. They were. I need to give myself grace. They needed to learn that for a reason. They have a lesson to learn from it. They were born to me for a reason. At the time that they were born to me, all of those things. Of forgiveness of yourself so that you can stay in that present moment of wellness.
And, that goes back to you're not looking back as far as in a negative term.
Right.
But just moving forward and the way we change our actions now and the way we live our lives now, we're still leading by example, hopefully for our children, even if they're out of your home, they still, we're growing. And I think that even on a conscious level, if they're not aware that we're growing and changing, on a subconscious level, our souls are communicating and evolving together. So I think that any changes we make, it's helping not just those that are within our home, but those that we react with. I think it's helping on a global scale.
Well, let's just leave it with that. Anything you do for yourself, you're helping everyone in the world.
Correct.
Really, because you're emanating just a better energy.
Yes.
And,
yes.
And then there's the fact that the more you clear out of yourself for negative habits, the more you do uplift those around you.
The whole. So let's maybe review some of our tools. We've talked about a lot today, but let's review our tools that we use to keep mindful and present to decrease stress in our lives?
Okay, well, being in the present moment and having an awareness of who you really are and what is really your danger or peril in the present moment, which for most of us, most of the time is not there.
Correct.
Are two of the biggest components going in. And then some of the tools we've talked about are meditation. We haven't even talked about journaling, meditation,
but
breathing,
movement,
body scans, intentionality or mindfulness to your daily tasks.
Yep.
The voice in your head, how you're talking to yourself and others. So intentionality and mindfulness with your words.
And we haven't mentioned journaling, but journaling is a great tool.
It is a great tool, sort of an extension of a lot of the other things we've talked about. And we've definitely talked about it a lot out there, but just write it down.
Write it down.
You'd be surprised what comes out to yourself when you write it down.
Definitely. Well, this has been fun.
Yeah, this has been a good one, I think.
It's fun, and I hope you guys learned a lot from it. So please comment, subscribe to our channel.
Yeah.
Share it if you found any of these tools useful. And we hope to spread the word and help you guys out.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for listening to Envibe Live Conversations. For more information and to join our community, be sure to check out our website at envibelive.com. We look forward to sharing with you.